From childhood to adulthood, I had a nickname, Spare, which was given to me by my older sister. At home, she never called me by my name, she only called me Spare. She called me that so often that even our parents forgot my real name. They also called me Spare. Just because I was someone who essentially shouldn't have existed in this family. Today, my parents cleaned the house thoroughly and even decorated it with many bright, cheerful items. As soon as the sound of fireworks downstairs ceased, my mother, wearing a tight red dress, with a bright smile on her face, stood up to welcome the distinguished guests. "I'm so embarrassed that you had to travel from so far. Please, come in and have a seat." Today is my older sister's engagement day. She and our parents warmly welcomed her future in-laws to our home for the engagement ceremony. My sister held her fiancé's hand intimately, the smile on her face never fading. My brother-in-law looked very handsome today, so handsome that even I liked him. While chatting, my brother-in-law's mother suddenly asked, "I heard your family has another daughter. Why don't I see her anywhere?" Everyone in the room froze. The quickest to react was my mother. She shook her head with a smile and said, "Spare doesn't know how to behave. She refused to come home even for her sister's engagement day." No, I am here. I am on the ceiling, staring at every single person in the room. The engagement ceremony ended, and my brother-in-law helped my sister into the room to rest. As for me, I floated on the ceiling looking down. As soon as my sister sat down, she looked up, her eyes filled with sorrow as she looked at my brother-in-law and said, "Chris, Nancy must really hate me, to the point of not even bothering to attend our engagement." I truly admired her ability to lie without her face changing expression. It was clearly she who told our parents they absolutely had to prevent me from appearing, yet now she could casually say these words. Chris frowned, hugging my sister sympathetically.
"She was the one who betrayed me. What right does she have to hate you? It's better that someone like her didn't come. It saves everyone from being upset."
Hearing this, I screamed wildly from the ceiling. That's not how it happened. I didn't betray anyone. But Chris could never hear my screams. He used to be my boyfriend, but after coming to my house once, he firmly demanded a breakup. No matter how much I begged, he wouldn't come back. Half a month later, he announced he was dating my sister. I never understood why it happened until yesterday when I came home and accidentally overheard their conversation. That's when I learned the truth. 6 months ago, the first time I brought my boyfriend home for dinner, after the meal, my sister called me into her room. It was rare for her to speak to me with a gentle attitude. "Spare, your boyfriend isn't bad. Can I have him?" I thought she was just joking. Only later did I realize she was completely serious when she said that. After I left home with my boyfriend, my parents secretly called him back to the house without telling me. This time, from her mouth, he heard some terrible things about me. She told my boyfriend that I was being kept by an old man, that I was too timing, and playing with his feelings. She even produced intimate photos between me and that man as proof. I didn't expect she still kept those photos. Years ago, if not for her, I wouldn't have had to go through such unnecessary trauma. My sister was inherently an excellent student, but in her final year of university, because she rushed to do an internship, she missed an important graduation assignment. Facing the risk of not graduating in order to graduate smoothly, she tricked me into going to a hotel, drugged me, and put me in her professor's bed. If I hadn't fought to the death to resist, I might have fallen into the clutches of that evil professor. After I escaped, she used those photos to blackmail the professor, and ultimately, she graduated with the title of an honor student. Afterward, I went home and told my mother everything. Mom looked at me with a cold smile and said, "You're fine, aren't you? You didn't lose a chunk of meat. At most, you just lost a layer of membrane, and the membrane isn't even gone yet. Helen is your sister. What's wrong with sacrificing a little for her? We raised you for so many years. Are you going to be petty about such a small thing?" At that moment, I was completely in despair. From then on, I didn't want to argue with my parents for my own sake anymore. My boyfriend was completely furious when he saw those intimate photos. He didn't expect me to be such a despicable person. When he learned of these things, he didn't doubt them at all. After all, It all came from the mouths of my relatives. They shared the same blood as me. How could they lie to slander me? That night, my boyfriend drank himself into a stupor out of heartache, and under my parents' arrangement, he was put into my sister's bed. Half a month later, they made their relationship public. Even though my sister and my boyfriend were together, my parents were still not at ease. They were afraid I wouldn't be resigned and would cause trouble. To stop me, they wouldn't even let me come home, forcing me to live alone in an apartment near my company. Seeing that my sister was about to get engaged, they finally felt safe. They announced that I should come home to witness the glorious moment of my sister's life. I accidentally discovered the secret that had been hidden for so long. I stood frozen on the spot. My mother discovered me, shrieked in panic, stared at me with wide eyes, and said, "You heard everything?" I looked at her with tear-filled eyes, resentment welling up inside me. "No, toi mom, clearly we are both your daughters. Why do you treat me like this?" She spoke to me in annoyance. "My only daughter is Helen Hill. If you dare to speak nonsense and ruin tomorrow's engagement, don't blame me for not being polite to you." Despairing, I returned to my room to pack my luggage, intending to leave. I couldn't stay in this house anymore. Before long, there was a knock at the door. My mother stood there with a glass of milk. Seeing me open the door, she handed me the milk. I spoke harshly earlier, "Drink this milk, get some rest early, and don't overthink things." This was the first time in my memory she had spoken to me so gently. My heart trembled, my hand instinctively reached out to take the milk, and I drank it all in one gulp. Thinking back now, even if I knew it was poison at that time, I would have drunk it without hesitation. Because when Mom handed me the milk, she smiled at me. That was the first time she smiled at me. A few minutes later, I started to feel sleepy. I wanted to leave the house, but my eyelids felt as heavy as lead, and finally, I passed out completely. When I opened my eyes again, a pair of terrifying eyes were staring right at me. I tried to struggle to sit up, but found myself tightly bound with ropes. "No, toi let me go immediately. Or I'll call the police." He smirked, revealing white teeth. The smile was particularly ferocious and scary.
The people who tied you up are your parents. Are you going to call the police to arrest them?
Memories flooded back. I realized the man in front of me was the youngest son of the neighbor family upstairs, Travis, the one who didn't like to talk. After Travis's parents passed away, he lived here alone. He walked alone every day, never communicated with anyone, and was considered a freak by everyone. My parents were afraid I would ruin my sister's engagement, so they drugged the milk and locked me in the neighbor's house upstairs. Flames of anger erupted in my heart. I began trying to struggle, screaming for Travis to release me. Travis was angered by me. He swung his hand and slapped me hard across the face. I was stunned for a moment, looking up at him in disbelief. In his eyes, I saw excitement. Next, he took something to gag my mouth, then used all sorts of tools to beat me. Until I completely stopped breathing, he finally stopped. After I died, Travis didn't panic. He skillfully opened the refrigerator and stuffed my body inside. The fridge was too small to fit my whole body, so he used an electric saw to cut my body into pieces, then stuffed them inside piece by piece. I was dead, handed over by my own parents to a devil to be tortured to death. What they wished for every day had finally come true. "Mom, Dad, are you satisfied? I am dead. My body is still lying in the refrigerator upstairs. My soul has nowhere to reside, unable to leave this building, only able to wander back and forth between the two apartments." I lay on the ceiling, smelling the food rising from the dining table, watching them eat dinner without me. The smiles on their faces were even more radiant. The table was full of dishes my sister liked. My parents kept putting food in her bowl, and Chris attentively peeled shrimp and placed them in front of her. The whole family was happy. My sister was like a pampered child, loved deeply by everyone. Unlike me, the spare, born as a surplus. Since childhood, I knew I wasn't loved in this family, but I still foolishly hoped that through my obedience, I could receive a little affection from my parents. Now I know how wrong I was. They didn't just not love me, they hated me. Dinner ended, and Chris left for some business. Only my sister remained in the living room with our parents. Mom cut fruit and placed it in front of her. Eat plenty of fruit, it's good for your skin. Mom, is Spare okay alone upstairs? Do we need to go check? My mother didn't bother to care, she just curled her lip. What could happen to her? It would be best if she disappeared. Seeing the hatred on my mother's face, my cold heart sank even further. I really wanted to tell her, Mom, you got your wish this time. I have disappeared from this world and will never appear again. But sadly, she would never hear my words again. My sister hesitated and said, Mom, I'm afraid Spare upstairs might disturb the neighbors. She is forever a hypocrite like that, speaking kind words, but in reality just using me to protect her own interests. It wasn't that she was afraid I'd disturb the neighbors. She was afraid that if I was locked up too long, news would leak out and affect her reputation. My sister always demanded perfection. In the eyes of the neighbors, she was forever the perfect daughter, while I was the typical bad kid, always the perfect scapegoat whenever she made a mistake. To protect my sister's image, Mom proactively called my dad. Go upstairs and look for her. I felt a bit nervous. I followed Dad upstairs. Would he find me? A knock sounded on the door. Travis inside woke up groggily. Last night he tortured me all night until he was exhausted at dawn and fell asleep. Looking at the person who killed me, my soul couldn't help but tremble. Although I had completely lost hope in my father, I still hoped he could quickly discover my body and catch this disgusting perverted murderer. Travis opened the door. Seeing my dad, he became panicked. My dad asked politely,
Travis, where's the spare girl from my house?
Travis lowered his head and mumbled a reply.
This afternoon she said she had a stomachache, so I let her go home. Did she not come back to the house?
My dad's face immediately darkened. Then he cursed in a low voice.
That spare girl is truly a waste of my effort. Anyway, Travis, I'm leaving. You go back to rest.
Having said that, my dad left. He didn't see the triumphant smile that appeared on Travis's face as soon as he turned his back to go downstairs. Watching my dad's figure gradually disappear, I was completely in despair. Clearly, if he had just looked a little closer, just a little bit, he could have detected the panic on Travis's face, detected his abnormality. But he didn't do that. He just left, leaving me lying in the ice-cold refrigerator. I no longer thought about revenge, nor did I even hope Travis would be caught. Someone like me, whom even my biological parents wanted dead, vanishing completely from this world, what value did I have for others to care? I was just trash, a pile of garbage that needed to be cleaned up and dissolved into nothingness. A few days later, one morning, my parents returned from the market and found the area below the building blocked off by police tape. They curiously stuck their heads out to look around, whispering with the neighbors. Standing on the floor looking through the window, I could see the curiosity clearly in their eyes. My mother asked curiously, Mrs. Wilson, neighbor from next door, what happened, Mrs. Wilson? Mrs. Wilson replied mysteriously, Doesn't the Hill family know yet? That youngest son of the Tate family living above you. I heard he's a perverted killer. He was caught red-handed committing a crime last night. Now the police have sealed off the place to find evidence. It's terrible. Hearing this, my parents were extremely shocked. When they heard about a killer, they were also frightened, but mixed within that fear was curiosity. My mother continued to gossip. I really didn't expect such a thing. Who would have thought that boy, who usually doesn't say a word, would be so perverted behind our backs? Mr. Miller, who lived opposite, provided more news.
I heard he didn't just kill one person, but also hid a body in the house.
Everyone felt a chill down their spines upon hearing this. Everyone's face showed panic. Several forensic officers in uniforms came down from upstairs, carrying many things. Black sealed bags emitted a strong stench of blood. Everyone scattered in fear, no one wanting to be associated with this bad luck. In the hands of the forensic officers were also several transparent evidence bags. When my mother looked over, she saw a transparent bag containing my jade ring, which still had bloodstains on it. That was the only gift she had ever given me, because the ring she bought was too small and didn't fit my sister. It fell into my hands. I saw a look of panic appear in my mother's eyes. She opened her mouth to speak, but made no sound. It can't be. The very next second, she suddenly rushed forward. My mother almost touched my belongings when my father suddenly rushed over to stop her and pulled her away.
What are you doing?
My mother looked at Dad in panic and said tremblingly, "That is." Her words hadn't even come out before my father covered her mouth with his hand. Floating on the tree beside them, I saw it very clearly. The horror in my father's eyes couldn't be hidden. Not just my mother, perhaps he had also guessed something. Dad pulled Mom into a deserted corner of the small garden, warning her sternly.
Don't ask for trouble.
But that's Spare's ring, I can't be mistaken.
So what if it belongs to Spare?
My father spoke with utter disdain.
Who knows if she dropped it before leaving? We should avoid trouble. If the neighbors find out we sent Spare to the house of someone like that, who knows what they will say?
But my mother intended to say something else when she was cut off by my father. My father said impatiently,
No buts. That girl is truly a disaster. A disaster for 1,000 years. She won't die that easily.
Was I really a disaster? But even if I was a disaster, I was dead now. When my parents learned the truth about my death, would they be happy? Finally, the disaster had disappeared, and from now on, no one would bother them anymore. Just as my father decided to take my mother to a hotel to stay for a few days to lay low, his phone suddenly rang. Nom, phone hello, we are the Central Criminal Investigation Team. We invite you both to the police station to assist with the investigation. At the police station, I silently clung to my mother's back. I could attach myself to the bodies of my relatives to leave the apartment complex. After receiving the call, my father took my mother to the police station, and I followed my mother there. As the officers prepared to take them into the interrogation room, my sister also appeared. Seeing her, my mother immediately became agitated. Helen, why are you here too? My sister looked at Mom with a face full of grievance and complained. Mom, what exactly is going on with that Spare girl? I was brought here by the police. Colleagues who didn't know better thought I committed some crime. I'm so embarrassed. My dear sister, even at this moment, you didn't forget to scold me. Sisterly love runs so deep. I clung to Mom's shoulder, looking at her with a faint smile. After the police completed the basic procedures for them, they announced that the victim was suspected to be me. My mother immediately collapsed, my father was stunned, and my sister frowned. While the police comforted them to stay calm, my father suddenly asked,
Officer, how will this affect us?
The female officer was surprised for a moment. Perhaps she didn't expect to meet such a father. His daughter was brutally murdered, yet instead of grieving, they were worried about whether they would be implicated. It was truly laughable and heartless. My sister was eager to go home. The police finished the procedures and let them leave. The three of them supported each other out of the gate when suddenly an officer rushed out to block them.
You cannot leave.
Why? Didn't we finish the procedures?
We now suspect that you are involved in this murder case. Please cooperate with us for the investigation.
The three were separated and taken into interrogation rooms for questioning. I still clung to Mom's back as she entered the interrogation room. The atmosphere in the room was very serious. My mother seemed tense, her limbs trembling uncontrollably. The female officer asked seriously, "Did you conspire with Travis to murder Nancy Hill?" My mother looked up in fear and said, "Officer, Spare, oh no, Nancy is my daughter, how could I harm her?" The female officer questioned loudly, "According to the testimony of the suspect Travis, you drugged Nancy Hill and handed her over to him to dispose of, is that correct?" My mother panicked. She didn't know how to answer. She continuously justified herself, saying she only took me to the Tate house to stay for a day. She didn't tell Travis to kill me. But when the police asked why, she couldn't say anything. It was the same on my father's side. How could the Hill family's dirty laundry be exposed? Because of Travis's accusation, my parents went directly from being the victim's family to suspects. Until there was evidence proving they were not involved in my case, they could not leave the police station. Only my sister, she claimed she knew absolutely nothing about this, and even had an alibi. After being bailed out by Chris, she was released. Meeting Chris, my sister immediately threw herself into his arms. Chris, I'm so scared. Let's go home. Chris pulled her into the car, and I clung to her shoulder. As soon as they got in the car, Chris asked anxiously,
Helen, what on earth is going on? Is the victim really Nancy?
My sister nodded in annoyance, speaking disdainfully. She really is a nuisance, causing trouble for others even after death. Chris looked at her in surprise. The next second, she realized what she had just said and hurriedly explained. Chris, I just misspoke because I was too angry. Chris didn't say anything, but the look in his eyes when he looked at her had changed. I sat beside them, watching the two people with different thoughts, and laughed silently. The old residential area couldn't hide secrets. After the police came to my house to search, the news that I was the victim spread throughout the area. A group of old men and women gathered in the small garden to gossip. I was at home watching them talk. Mr. Miller mysteriously revealed shocking news.
Have you heard? The Hill family's daughter was killed by the Hills themselves.
Everyone was astonished. That's their biological daughter. How could that be? Mr. Miller said scornfully.
If not, why were they arrested? The deceased is their daughter. They should be the victim's family.
This statement made the neighbors who were still doubtful completely believe that my parents had killed me. Mrs. Wilson secretly interjected. Do you think the Hills are good people? I'm telling you, don't look at their polite exterior. They are rotten inside. Their second daughter has been abused since childhood. It's not strange for something like this to happen. Mrs. Wilson usually had a good relationship with my mother, so everyone believed what she said. I remember when I was 8, when I was bullied by my sister, I fought back a little. My sister told Mom, and Mom beat me. Not satisfied with that, in the middle of winter, she forced me to wear only a thin undershirt, dragged me to the hallway, and made me kneel from morning till night, forbidding me to cry. If I did, she would kick me out of the house. I didn't dare to cry, kneeling there obediently. During that time, Mrs. Wilson passed through the hallway. She glanced at me and said one sentence. I still remember those words clearly to this day. If you want to blame someone, blame your bad luck. You didn't know to bring that thing with you when you were reincarnated, so suffering is deserved. Just because I wasn't a boy, I had to suffer this bias? I didn't have a choice when I was born. If I had known I would be treated unfairly just because of my gender, would I have chosen to be born? No, I wouldn't. Chris argued with my sister. He told her he wanted to postpone the wedding. This made her extremely angry. She questioned him. Why? Everything has been arranged, and now you say postpone the wedding? How much face do you want me to lose? Do you know how many people will laugh at me? Initially, Chris patiently tried to persuade her, but after being pestered too much by my sister, he exploded. He shouted,
Your sister was murdered, and you're still worried about your reputation, Helen Hill? How can you be so cold?
My sister stood frozen, looking at Chris in disbelief. Once the crack was opened, it was very hard to contain. Chris looked at her and questioned.
There are only 2 months left. Will your parents be able to get out? They still haven't cleared the murder charges. If the wedding actually takes place, that would truly be a disgrace.
My sister stared at him blankly, reflexively intending to say something, but no words came out. Chris walked away with a cold face. My sister ran after him, but he didn't turn back. The expression on his face was even harder than when he broke up with me. I understood that this relationship of my sister's was completely broken. Recently, I had been following my sister. Her mood was getting worse every day. I saw her take out her phone, but I didn't expect her to call my number. Only when no one answered did she realize I was dead. She threw the phone onto the sofa in rage. Before, whenever she was unhappy, she would scold me to vent her anger. Sometimes, when she was too angry, she would even choke me. She said, "Spare, seeing your miserable look is so satisfying." Without me, this Spare, she didn't even have anyone to vent her anger on. Chris hadn't contacted my sister for a whole week. Usually calm, she now became increasingly irritable. She tried to call Chris, but discovered her number had been blocked. Seeing the anger and despair clearly on her face, I laughed. In the past, when I was broken up with inexplicably, I had the same expression. My sister was different from me. She was more confident, not like me, who carried an inferiority complex since childhood. She put on makeup, fixed herself up, and rushed out of Chris's house to talk to him. I followed her there. The person who opened the door was Chris's mother. Seeing her, the smile on her face suddenly extinguished. "Why did you come here?" My sister tried to smile and speak. "Auntie, is Chris home? There's been some family business these past few days, so I couldn't contact him, and he wouldn't pick up the phone, so I came to check." It wasn't that she couldn't contact him. Clearly the number was blocked. Chris's mother spoke coldly, no longer having her usual enthusiasm. "Helen, if your family is business, just take care of your family affairs first. Chris has been busy lately too. I sent him on a business trip with his father. He won't be back for a few months." Hearing this, the expression on my sister's face could no longer hold up. She said aggrievedly, "Auntie, the wedding for me and Chris is next month. How can he go on a business trip for months at this time?" "Helen, if you don't understand, I'll say it straight. Your family is so cold-blooded, we are not satisfied. As long as I am alive, don't expect to step foot into my house." Saying that, she intended to close the door. My sister, feeling wronged, wanted to grab her hand but was pushed away. She said without mercy, "If you have any shame left, stop pestering Chris. Your sister was massacred, your parents arrested, yet you still worry about getting married. You are a terrifying kind of woman." Having said that, she ruthlessly closed the door. Ignoring my sister crying and begging outside, she remained unmoved. I stood there silently watching her suffer. At this moment, she seemed to be enduring a great grievance, but that wasn't enough. What she endured was still far less than what I had to go through. She didn't know that when I was beaten by Travis, that devil, with all kinds of weapons, how much pain and helplessness I felt. They were clearly right downstairs, but ignored my cries for help. I could discount the past pains, only hoping that when I was near death, screaming desperately for help, they could help me just a little. Even with a stranger, they wouldn't be so heartless, but they didn't do it. They just stayed downstairs, letting me be dragged down to hell by the devil. The case was still under investigation, and my parents had not yet been cleared. My sister still couldn't contact Chris. He seemed to have cruelly vanished from the face of the earth. To investigate the truth of the case, the police repeatedly sought out my sister, asking her to cooperate. Rumors began to spread in the company. My death could no longer be kept a secret. A few curious colleagues took advantage of the lunch break to ask my sister, "Helen, I heard that in the serial murder case solved recently, one of the victims was your biological sister. Is that true? Why don't you look sad at all?" My sister's face gradually darkened. But unfortunately, that colleague didn't notice and continued to ask, "Is your wedding next month still happening?" This question immediately ignited the anger in my sister's head. Having never been insulted like this in her life, she grabbed the cup of coffee on the table and splashed it straight into the colleague's face. The scene became chaotic instantly. That day, she was summoned by the company leadership and temporarily suspended. They said suspended, but in reality, they were advising her to leave the company voluntarily. The company just didn't want to pay severance pay. On the way home, she bought a lot of alcohol. As she drank, she didn't forget to curse me. "You spare. You jinx. You deserve to die." When I was alive, she never treated me well, let alone had any sisterly affection. I was dead, but she continued to curse me. How could a cold person like her deserve happiness? She drank more and more, her consciousness becoming increasingly blurry. She constantly called Chris, but her number had been blocked long ago, so how could the call go through? In a fit of rage, she threw her phone towards the balcony. After throwing it, she regretted it. She rushed to the balcony to retrieve it, but her mind wasn't clear, and half her body leaned over the railing. She couldn't catch the phone, and her whole body slipped down. Just as she was about to fall, she suddenly sobered up, trying to grip the railing, struggling to climb up. I just stood by silently watching her struggle in pain. Since childhood, she hadn't done any work, never even washed a bowl. One could say her limbs were weak. Seeing she was about to lose the strength to hold on, I unconsciously reached out my hand. My hand passed through her arm. Just like that, right before my eyes, she fell. She still flailed her arms in despair, eyes wide open looking up, seemingly able to see my image. We looked at each other like that, and I watched helplessly as she fell. With a loud thud, she hit the ground, fresh blood flowing endlessly from her head and mouth. My sister died right in front of me. The news of my sister falling from the building reached my parents. My father was completely stunned. He couldn't accept that the daughter he loved most had departed so suddenly. My mother was so scared that her blood pressure skyrocketed, and she had to be hospitalized. After admission, I stayed by Mom's side. When she woke up, the police immediately arrived to question her and take a statement. My mother stared blankly at the ceiling, muttering, "Retribution. It's all my retribution." My sister's death was too big a shock for her. She no longer hid anything, but confessed the whole truth. The person taking my mother's statement was a young policewoman. She looked at my mother in surprise and asked, "You mean you drugged Nancy Hill and handed her upstairs so she wouldn't ruin Helen Hill's engagement?" "That's right." My mother no longer resisted. She confessed everything. She looked at the policewoman with regret and said, "It is all karma. We abandoned Nancy Hill, abandoned our own daughter. Heaven has taken back all our children to punish us." Looking at the stream of painful tears on my mother's face, I felt no emotion in my heart. I didn't know if her tears were for the heartbreak of losing 2 children or for the pain of heaven's punishment. But there was one thing she said that I didn't find wrong. Heaven is fair. She didn't want this child, so heaven helped her take back her children, leaving her with no one to care for or comfort her for the rest of her life. After being thoroughly interrogated by the police, Travis confessed the whole truth. Knowing he couldn't escape punishment, he thought he would drag 2 more people down with him, so he accused my parents of participating in the crime. Travis made a request. He wanted to meet my parents. He said that as long as he met them, he would recount every detail the police wanted to know. To confirm the details of the case, the police agreed to his request. As soon as he got the news, my father immediately refused. He questioned the police in fear.
How can you take me to confront such a cold-blooded killer? Do you know how terrifying this is?
I laughed. So you know fear? But did you ever think about how scared and terrified I was when you handed your daughter over to a devil with your own hands? Under my father's firm objection, the police finally agreed to let him not participate. My mother was silent for a long time before suddenly speaking. "Let me go."
Are you crazy? That's a killer who doesn't blink. Aren't you afraid?
My mother glanced at him, said nothing, and silently followed the police out. The small interrogation room had only a table for 4, 2 police officers, my mother, and Travis. When I walked into the interrogation room with Mom and saw Travis, my soul trembled. I was scared enough to want to scream, to run away. But I wanted to know what Travis would say to my mother, and even more, I wanted to know my mother's thoughts at this moment. I wanted to ask her if she regretted it. I cowered, clinging to Mom's back, not daring to look directly at Travis. Just looking into his eyes, the painful memories before death would flood back into my head, making my soul restless. The officer sitting next to my mother signaled her to start speaking first. My mother asked nervously, "Travis, why did you want to meet me?" Travis laughed. His smile was ferocious and full of evil.
Don't you want to know how your daughter was before she died?
My mother said nothing, her whole body trembling. Travis noticed it, and a look of triumph appeared in his eyes. He proactively recounted the details of killing me.
I used a baseball bat to hit your daughter on the head. Used chopsticks to stab her. She cried incessantly, constantly begging. When she was no longer lucid, she even called for her mother. She forgot who brought her here. She even called out, "Mom, save me."
My mother couldn't stop shaking. She muttered, "Don't speak anymore, you devil."
I am a devil. No, I am an angel who came to save your daughter. You people are the devils. You handed her into my hands. I just helped her escape her misery. The real executioners are you. The killer is me, but the person who handed over the knife was you. The person who held her down was your husband. I am not guilty. The guilty ones are you.
Travis's continuous accusations caused my mother's blood pressure to spike. Seeing signs of instability in my mother, the police, worried something might happen, took her away, ending the dialogue early. Travis had confessed everything, and the charges my parents had to bear were cleared. The two returned to their residential area. The old neighbors avoided them when they saw them. There wasn't even a basic greeting. Wherever my parents went, there were always people standing behind them pointing and gossiping. Cruel old things, such ruthless hearts. Even a tiger doesn't eat its cubs, yet they gave their daughter to a pervert. The human heart is truly terrifying.
That is the couple from the Hill family. Hearts so dark to this extent. The second daughter was killed by them. Now the eldest daughter is gone too. Truly karma. You reap what you sow.
Every day my parents had to endure scolding. Some people even dumped rotting trash in front of their door to express anger towards them. My father couldn't stand such a life anymore. He advised my mother to move. But my mother said stubbornly, "Move? Move where? Who would dare buy even this house?" Although I didn't die in this very house, the crime scene was right upstairs. This was still the house where I lived when I was alive, so it could be considered a haunted house. Moreover, I died so miserably no one dared to buy our house. My mother didn't want to leave. The next day, my father packed his bags and returned to his hometown. He left Mom alone in the empty room, weeping silently. After Dad returned to the countryside alone, his life became extremely difficult. All his life he had lived under Mom's care. He had never even washed clothes, let alone cooked or done housework. Now, not only was there no one to take care of him, but he also had to go down to the fields to work every day to maintain his daily life. Nothing can be hidden forever. Although the hometown was far from the city, the story of my family still reached there. Initially, neighbors were curious about why my father suddenly returned alone. Now that they knew the truth, everyone stood behind his back cursing him. Serves him right. Even 3-year-old children in the village called him bad guy when they saw him. My father's heart was full of resentment, but he had nowhere else to go. The rest of his life was destined to be lived in coldness, loneliness, and contempt from the world. Just like what I experienced when I was a child. After Dad left, my mother stayed home alone, waking up every night from nightmares. In just a few short months, she seemed to age 10 years. Not only did she look much more haggard, but her head was full of gray hair. My aunt met with Mom. When she saw her, she almost didn't recognize her. "Why do you look so haggard?" "I haven't slept well lately. With so many sudden misfortunes in the family, who could sleep well?" My aunt sighed. "In the past, I advised you and Old Hill. Even if you didn't like her, she was your biological child. You couldn't treat Nancy like that. And the result? You didn't listen. Now look at this." This sentence was like opening a floodgate, instantly igniting the pain in my mother's heart. She rested her head on my aunt's shoulder and cried loudly. "Sister-in-law, I was wrong. I truly know I was wrong. I shouldn't have treated Nancy like that. If I had listened to you that day, things wouldn't have come to this. Every night I dream of her coming back to find me. She asks me why I didn't save her, why I gave her to the devil." I sat beside her, silently watching Mom cry. Even though she regretted it now, I didn't want to forgive her. No one can completely let go after experiencing such pain. Moreover, I knew clearly that her regret wasn't for what she did to me in the past. She only regretted the outcome she had to endure now. My aunt comforted her for a long time, and finally, my mother temporarily calmed down. "How about you become a vegetarian with me, chanting to Buddha every day?" The paths for Helen and Nancy were not good. Consider it accumulating some merit for the children, praying that in the next life they can be reincarnated into a better family. My mother seemed to find spiritual support and nodded in agreement immediately. She was very determined. The next day she returned. She found a temple and went to live there. Seeing her put on the blue robes, the hatred in me suddenly dissipated. Letting her spend the rest of her life in loneliness, living with the light of an oil lamp, could be considered the greatest punishment for her. "I'm tired. My life ends here. I hope in the next life I can live more happily."